Today we're going to be talking about how to make a very simple Scratch game. This is part 3. If you haven't checked out part 2 and part 1, go ahead and check it out. So this is supposed to be our finished product. We could add other things if we want to. I'm just going to show you how it looks like, and then we'll go over the code. So we press start. This is our character. This guy's not really playing. You could move him if you want to. Replay, and then you could start again. As you can see, this guy is allowed to move too. So this is a 2-player game. And once you do lose, you get the game over screen. And then you could restart the game. You don't really have to do this because it's a little advanced. Not too advanced. It's a little simple process, and it's going to require a lot of broadcasts. So you might ask what a broadcast is. So a broadcast is basically sending a message to all of the sprites. But the sprites really don't listen to your broadcast. It's like they don't care. Unless if you put when I receive and then the broadcast. That means they actually do care about it, and they actually would want to know what's in the broadcast. In this case, when I receive replay, we're going to set eat lives to 3. So at first, we're actually going to change the code a bit. You know, we had one flag is clicked, one flag is clicked for these two. In the first sprite, we're going to change that to when I receive the beginning. And you might ask how I get the beginning. We'll check over here. So this is my first backdrop. It's called the Ultimate Chase game. Notice that I haven't put my start over here because it's sprite 4. Let's go back to backdrops. My second backdrop is just a plain screen for the gameplay. My third backdrop is just saying game over. Notice that replay is not here. Replay is one of the costumes in sprite 4. Let's go back to code. Fix that, okay. So what we're gonna do at first is go to sprite 4. And before we do anything, actually, we will add some broadcasts. That's what I was gonna say. So this is all the code for our sprite. First, you want to make a box, type start, and then another box, and type replay. Go to code, and you want to do something similar like this. This is an extra. I don't need this. So when I receive replay, before we look at when replay is actually made, I actually have some extras. I really don't want this. Let me clean this out. So I get replay from this sprite. So in the beginning of the game, you want to go to backdrops and do when flag is clicked, press new message, and then type replay. Anything you want really, I like replay. So replay gets broadcast to all the sprites. Now go here, and you want this guy to listen. You want him to receive the replay. So what you want to do is go show, because we want him to show. Yeah, we want him to show, and switch costume to the start costume, because this is the beginning of the game, not the end. So switch costume to costume 1, and bring him wherever you want it to be. I want it to be right over here. Get a forever loop, and do this little if statement. So what this basically means is that both of these statements have to be true, or else the game won't work. So if I'm touching this guy, but I'm not pressing the mouse, nothing happens. But if I am touching this guy and pressing the mouse, broadcast the beginning. And you might ask, what am I doing with broadcast the beginning? Remember we had all this stuff? Like this? We're going to put beginning instead of that. This one is when I receive replay, because we want it to start in the beginning. Like right before the receiving the beginning, like in the beginning of the game. In this part, it's already installed. But if I do that, I think it still should work, even if you put the beginning code. 2 and 1. replay, start, and it still works. So forget what I said. Instead, put when I receive the beginning. When I receive the beginning for both of our when flag is clicked. This is for both sprites. Remember we had this front layer thing? Both of them. Now forget about all this code. This is very simple. All these three code is just that I want to hide them when I want them to hide. So we don't want them to show in the backdrop. So when I'm going to put when I receive replay or when I receive this backdrop, I want them to hide. When flag is clicked, which means in the beginning of the game, I want them to hide. And when the game is over, I want them to go behind the screen. The problem about hiding it is, like in the beginning, is that when you replay, you don't see anything. You want to do go back layer and then hide. Now, when we are actually playing the game, or when I press start, then I want him to show, go to the front layer, and go to the place where I want him to go. And remember to switch the costume to the costume we wanted. So these are why I put these broadcasts. A lot of broadcasts you need to remember. So remember to put the beginning for the two pieces of code and make sure he hides for everything. When flag is clicked, when I receive replay, or when I start the game, you want him to hide. And when I receive end or the game is over, I want him to go to the back layer and then also hide. Let's go to hearts. We're going to do the same thing. Forget about all this code. Okay. So remember we had this code. I'm going to put when I receive the beginning. In the end, I want him to hide. In the beginning of the game, I want him to hide. So the reason why we have replay is when I start, or when flag is clicked, he's not here until I do the beginning, right? Now he's going to lose his lives. Okay, game over. Now you see replay. Once I press replay, notice I'm not clicking the flag anymore. So he will appear. This guy will appear. But since I did replay, then this guy's still hiding. When I finish the game, you broadcast replay. I'll show you where that goes. And you want him to go to hide. So all of these four stuff are just hiding the person. When I receive end, I guess I could put hide. Duplicate this. Hide. You want to do the same code that you did here. Let me click that. Here. And here. It's just that I wrote it a little different for each one. It's the same thing. I just want him to hide. So you did that for all three sprites. For the code that you already have, place the beginning. And for the other parts, do hide. Now let's go to sprite 4. The part we haven't coded really. I told you what this is. Now you might ask what when I receive end is. First of all, you might ask where do I receive the end? So we go to heart. And remember we had to stop all over here? Now we're not going to stop everything. But this time we're going to add an end screen. So we're going to do, instead of stop all, we're going to remove that. If you had stop all, remove it. And then place broadcast, make a new message called end. And then you should get all the end blocks if you haven't already. And you go to sprite here. So when it's the end, or when I receive end, you want to hide this costume in the beginning because we don't want to see start, and then in 1 second we don't want to see replay. We want it to be replay the whole time. So we're gonna hide, switch costume to the costume we need, or costume 2. And then go to the place that we want it to go. In this case, it's -8 and -90. We want them to show. And put a forever loop. So what this basically does is the same code that we did here. But the inside is a little bit more complex. So I'm going to broadcast replay. So you might ask what replay is. Replay is, remember the code that we had over here? That's replay. So when I'm finished the game and I want to play it again, that's when I broadcast replay. So in this case, start. let's say I like the game. So we're gonna run this code. First he hid, then he switched costume to costume 2, and then he went to the place I wanted to go. And if you want to check, you could see it's in the exact place. And he's showing, we could see him. And now, I'm just touching him, but my mouse is not down, so the code won't run. So when I press this, I'll broadcast replay. So let's check over here what happens when I broadcast replay. When I broadcast replay, it should start in the beginning screen. Let's try that. It's in the beginning screen. Right? Now, let's check up. Now that I have broadcast replay, let's go up. When I receive replay, we want him to change to costume 2. And when I do this, I broadcast beginning. So this is a little loop. When I receive beginning, we want the sprite to completely hide. Or when the game is played, we want them to hide. If this code wasn't here, this would be the game. We don't want this. So yeah, we have this. Now, the last thing we're going to be looking at is that why did I put a wait 1 second and then broadcast retry? So I've tried this a couple of times, and what problem I had is what I wanted to show you. Let's remove the broadcast retries here, and we'll check out what happens. Notice that the thing will flicker. So when the code is running, you should see a yellow light around it. You can't see it right now because that's that code. And see, I have received the end, so this is flickering. Now I press replay. Now click start. I already have replay, so I really can't start because it's flickering. The computer runs the code very quickly. So what's actually happening is it's going to ultimate chase to ultimate chase so quickly that the naked eye can't really see what's happening. So nothing really happened. So that's why I had to retry. But what the retry does is that it refreshes the memory of the backdrop and makes it start from the beginning. So we can actually loop the code. So when I do retry, wait for 1 second and stop other scripts in this sprite. Not stop all, stop other scripts in this sprite. Go here. Let's put this back. The 1 second is just for a refresh. And when we play it, let's try again and check if it works. I want to destroy this clone. Goodbye. I'll retry, replay, and start. So it works. Sometimes it flickers a little, but after a couple of tries, it shouldn't flicker, I believe. In the first try, I believe it always flickers. Let's replay again. And see, it didn't flicker. So we have a perfect game. This is the end of this tutorial. If you want to add anything else, do it in the comments or type something in the comments, and I'll add that for you. It could be mines, a tiny maze, a little scrolling game, anything to our basic game. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!